putting that on CNN? I'm like, you know what? Y'all niggas done went crazy on Diddy.
That was after.
After he testified, so you can't punish her. I ain't giving you shit.
You're the unpunisher.
Yeah, that's it. Be like probably 2-3 years.
2-3 years?
Yeah.
So why would he get elected?
Because he's Diddy.
Look, long before the internet turned this whole situation into a giant meme machine, there was a man sitting in a federal courtroom making claims that had reporters scrambling for their notebooks. We're doing things a bit differently today. We're breaking down the hype, lining up the actual records, and looking at how a witness's wild claims match up against a solid calendar. You're about to see exactly how an industry name got turned into a huge media spectacle, why certain stories don't add up under pressure, and we're laying out the receipts right out the gate. Stick around until the very end, because we're going to show you where the comedy stops and the legal reality actually kicks in. Right now, people aren't just gossiping on blogs, they're looking closely at court filings. This whole setup feels like a standard barbershop debate that accidentally stumbled into a federal building, where every single joke feels like a low blow. But before anyone gets swept up in the viral clips, let's establish the facts. A figure who used to operate out of sight dropped a tell-all book with a title you literally cannot forget. And then he stood in front of a judge, dropping statements that the media is running wild with. Podcasters are doing exactly what social media does best, taking official legal testimony and turning it into pure entertainment. So the only real option we have is to take a breath, look at the actual documents, and spot the exact moment where the rumors stop and the truth starts showing up. Pay attention to who is actually asking for dates and paperwork versus the people who just want a quick laugh. That shows you where the real focus is. Underneath all the internet jokes, there's a real, messy reality about how adult industries, street clout, and huge payouts get handled once the cameras start rolling.
Crazy.
Oh,
Diddy does Miami.
Diddy on tour. Like, what?
Now look, when you step back and look at the whole picture, the money, the events, the setups, this book stops looking like a simple internet joke. It turns into a major piece of evidence and a big argument about who was really running the show and why people kept showing up. The podcast crew can feel it, even if they try to hide the seriousness behind a bunch of punchlines. The real reason this is going crazy online is because it totally flips the narrative. Instead of the clean, polished image of a billionaire music executive, we're getting down to the raw logistics. We're talking about who made the phone calls, who cleared the wire transfers, and who thought having a camera gave them leverage only to realize the hard way that a recording can destroy you. That's why these specific catchphrases have fully taken over social media. They're raw, they're messy, and they feel incredibly real to anyone following the case. Keep your eyes on where the money is moving in this conversation. It turns out that breaking out into laughs is just an easy way to slide a hard truth right past the crowd.
That's kind of part of the argument that they're making that. Like, he was making, this
Amateur porn.
They were filming this Producer.
He's a really good producer.
And this is the part people can't stop talking about: the wild money. The second you talk about huge cash payouts, everything shifts. If money is changing hands, there's allegedly a paper trail behind it, or at least the expectation that somebody kept the receipts. That is exactly where an internet culture war turns into a serious business investigation. And if we know anything about the industry, financial disputes have a funny way of jumping from viral podcasts straight to federal prosecutors. You can hear the guys on the show dancing right on the edge of the topic. Are they talking about independent operators working the system, or a whole environment that forced everyone to play dirty? Either way, the name of this book is acting like a giant alarm bell. It's wild, it's graphic, and it's totally impossible to ignore. It's got people who haven't even cracked the cover repeating it daily. That's the danger of a viral meme. It totally wipes away the details. Our job is to put those details right back where they belong, quote by quote.
He double wild.
Niggas getting wild money off this.
Here's where the room gets dead serious. Somebody steps in and asks where this book was actually being distributed. We're talking about cable television spots, media run-ins, and suddenly everyone has to switch into verification mode. That's actually where the comedy does us a favor. All the laughter forces the conversation to slow down so we can compare what was claimed out loud against what was actually logged on paper. The guys keep throwing out major media platforms like it's nothing, basically daring the viewers to go double-check them. Honestly, that's exactly what needs to happen. If the claim is that this story was everywhere, the test is straightforward. When did it drop, where did it stream, and who uploaded it first? Even inside the jokes, you can hear the absolute need for documentation. Watch how fast the room reacts the second a major network gets brought up. That's internet math in real-time cloud, makes you look believable until a date stamp exposes the timeline.
What's going on?
Yo,
Where
bro.
did you get? You see this book?
Bro, I seen this.
He was promoting that on all type on TV, all types of on interviews.
And there's a specific reason why the title of this book keeps coming up like a hook in a song. Repetition literally programs the public memory. Every single time they say it out loud, the project feels way more real to the audience, regardless of whether anyone has actually seen a physical copy. That's how a wild narrative completely steps over the facts. It just gets out there first and shouts the loudest. But hidden right inside all this banter is the one thread that actually matters. If there was major promotion happening, that means media exists. If there's media, there are videotapes. And if there are tapes, we can take those clips and cross-reference them with exactly what was stated under penalty of perjury. That is the exact moment this whole situation stops being an internet vibe and turns into a strict legal timeline.
These bitches up. What is it? The Punisher? The Punisher I know kills motherfuckers. We grew up looking at cartoons. Right?
That ain't crazier than the freezer meat.
That's the same.
Oh, that's the same
Yeah,
thing?
he
Oh,
made a book called Freezer.
That's why that complete shock over the term freezer meat works as both a hilarious punchline and a major red flag. It highlights how ridiculous the situation is while pointing everyone directly toward the public records. By the time this part of the conversation wraps up, the viewers are caught between two reactions. Do you just laugh it off, or do you start digging up the files? We're choosing to dig. Next up, we are tracking the digital trail, the book covers, the retail listings, the sit-down interviews, and we're lining them up right next to the official courtroom summaries that turned this entire project toxic. That's the exact point where the memes stop winning the argument and the official paperwork takes over the room.
The name of the book is called Freezer?
Yes.
His name is The Punisher?
Yes, he had to talk about his journey of erectile dysfunction.
What?
My bro, yo, listen, I'm sitting here like, what? You just made a book on erectile dysfunction. What? Wait, you putting that?
This is exactly where the cloud of rumors finally starts to blow away. The book isn't just a random punchline the guys are throwing around anymore. It's being laid out as a direct, first-hand account, a personal record of damage that basically provides a blueprint for how this entire circle allegedly operated. That matters, because the very second a story transitions from street whispers into a physically published book, it becomes official source material. People can grab a copy, pull quotes from it, trash it online, or stand up for it, but they absolutely cannot act like it doesn't exist. That's why the panel keeps circling back to that title like a baseline. They know a phrase that's shocking is going to travel way faster on the internet than any detailed legal breakdown. But hidden right underneath all the comedy is something surprisingly serious. You have a man putting it out there on the record saying, "This is what happened to me. This is what I went through. And this is what I thought success looked like." When these types of admissions cross paths with a huge celebrity circle, the internet instantly tries to turn real trauma into viral content. Our job is to reject that completely and keep asking the real questions. What does the actual text claim? And how did the system surrounding it make their money?
And how did the ecosystem around it profit?
He dropped the book. Boom. This is my journey.
No, I'm talking about the erectile, the dysfunctional thing.
That's the book. That's what the book's about. And what's called.
See, that full title about a personal medical crisis isn't just a cheap shot to get clicks. It's the entire core of the argument. It completely reframes the whole circus as a direct consequence of what was allegedly going on behind closed doors. Suddenly, all the viral jokes about cold storage and freezer doors run straight into intense medical realities, and the segment stops being just a funny clip. You can actually hear the host trying to figure out that exact transition in real time. Humor is the ultimate shield, especially when the underlying details are messy and the fallout is even worse. But that shield slips the second someone asks for a specific fact. What does the cover look like? What kind of images are they using? What kind of message is it putting out there? Because a book's cover art is a statement all on its own. It dictates exactly how the public is going to digest the material. If the graphics look wild and sensational, the audience is going to run wild with it. If they're plain, the internet is going to turn it into a metaphor. Either way, that cover turns into a giant lightning rod. It's the one place where we can pin down real, solid details and completely halt this game of telephone.
What's the cover of the book? Yo.
So the real work moving forward is simple. even if it's not what's trending right now. We have to stack these internet jokes up against the actual book jacket. Look at the chapters versus the official court files and build a clear timeline, because the order of events is absolutely everything here. Did this project scramble to cash in on the breaking news, or did the massive headlines come running after the book was already out? Did these podcast runs give extra weight to what was said under oath, or did the federal case suddenly make this book relevant to a crowd that would have never given it a second look? Those exact answers tell you who held the real leverage and exactly when they held it. And at the end of the day, leverage way more than public outrage or viral aesthetics is what dictates who walks away with a check and who ends up facing the consequences.
I ain't gonna do that, but
You notice how the money just keeps creeping back into the discussion like a character that refuses to leave the room? That is not an accident. Money acts as the ultimate editor in these circles. It cuts out pieces of the story, picks the players, and sets the whole vibe. The very second a provider shows up and things don't go according to plan, the room instantly drops the celebrity fantasy and shifts straight into corporate logic. Suddenly, everybody in the building is speaking fluent terms and conditions. That's exactly how you know you're getting close to how this machine actually operated. Once you strip away all the wild headlines and the online drama, all you're really left with are basic transactions, deals that were agreed upon, funds that were disputed, cash passed under the table, or non-disclosure agreements that kept this entire circle locked down. The lifestyle might look wild and unhinged, but the business logic is incredibly simple. The job gets done, the money gets paid, the job fails, the money gets locked up. And because all of this was bouncing around a multi-million-dollar celebrity brand, every single small payout gets blown up online into a big moral debate about power. Who gets to define worth? Who sets the fee? And who gets to rename you when you don't deliver?
Deliver.
I think you like, yo, here's $200. Go ahead, my nigga.
Oh.
Yeah, you handicapped now.
that was the first time he couldn't perform.
Bro, yes.
man.
And then he
With Diddy?
yes, and then he was like, you know what, here you go, here's some bread.
But he still gave him a couple of dollars.
Yeah, give him like $200-$300.
Look, dropping $200 or $300 isn't exactly a massive news story on its own until you sit it right next to the scale of a multi-million-dollar enterprise. That exact contrast is why people are glued to this story. The math is way off, and that disconnect exposes a much bigger issue. Being that close to crazy wealth and fame can make people accept deals and treatment that they would absolutely roast in any regular situation, and that is exactly when labels get turned into weapons. The absolute second someone doesn't deliver on what they were brought in for, the room cooks up a derogatory nickname that stays with them like a scar. Sure, it plays out as comedy on a podcast, but it's also a form of street discipline, a harsh reminder that your status in that circle is entirely temporary, and it can be taken away the minute you stop being useful. A name can give you major clout, but it can also be used to keep you in line. In a world where everyone is constantly trying to grab a piece of the spotlight, the threat of getting clowned and renamed is a serious warning shot. That's exactly why this entire joke lands so hard and cuts so deep at the same time.
Time.
If I hired you to punish my bitch, you can't punish her.
No.
I ain't giving you shit.
You're the unpunished.
Yeah, that's it.
So we have to look at two things at the exact same time. The comedy that keeps this entertaining, and the financial reality that keeps this cycle repeating. The moment you follow the money, you start uncovering the actual motives. It explains why people stayed completely silent for years, and exactly why they suddenly decided to speak up. And when those personal motives collide with official court calendars, a casual podcast conversation quickly turns into a pre-trial exhibit list. Next up, we are laying out the receipts in exact chronological order, the reported bookings, the alleged payouts, and how these situations reportedly wrapped up. The goal here isn't to judge anyone's lifestyle or dismiss the comedy, it's to map out the engine that turned this into a national headline. Notice how the hosts switch the conversation from basic gossip to a movie script. The second real life starts sounding like a movie. It pulls you away from the actual mess and feeds your inner storyteller. But all this movie talk also exposes a major pressure point. Whose side of the story gets bought up by Hollywood and who gets left behind as a punchline? In these scandal economies, the people who cash in the fastest aren't usually the ones telling the truth. They're just the ones who make a definitive move. They lay out the characters, highlight the wildest scenes, and hope the public accepts their edit. That rush to make everything look cinematic is addictive because it makes messy rumors look organized. When the guys start joking about this project heading straight to a streaming platform, they're exposing the content machine that takes real-world pain and recycles it into a script. Away from the lenses, People aren't just simple characters, they're complicated, compromised, and occasionally trying to do the right thing. That's the version we're tracking, even while the internet demands pure spectacle.
It's a Tubi movie in the making.
Bro, I know he making a Tubi movie right now. And it's called...
That whole joke about it being a low-budget streaming flick is hilarious because it hits a very specific note. It stands for rapid production, zero budget, and pure internet shock value. You film it in a weekend, push the memes out, and immediately jump to the next topic. But taking a speedrun approach to a serious legal scandal comes with a major downside. True details get totally wiped out, timelines get mixed up, and actual accountability gets buried right inside the quick edits. If you're too busy cracking up at the clips, you're definitely not double-checking the facts. Before you even realize what happened, the audience has swallowed an entire narrative built out of random internet snippets. That is exactly why repetition is so powerful here. Everyone in this space keeps circling the exact same phrases and images over and over that talk about freezer doors, cold storage, and a guy stuck with a specific task and a wild nickname. Those loops are just random jokes. It's social media muscle memory forming right in front of us. Our strategy is to deliberately slow things down, stacking the what, the when, and the who, not to take the fun out of the show, but to give the facts a real spine.
Pick up the phone.
I get it on
Hey, yo, pun. Hey, yo, pun. Slide over. You know what I mean? And, come about the freezer.
Now look, telling someone to step out of the freezer isn't just a funny internet catchphrase. It's a direct order. It shows you the exact hierarchy and the demands that were allegedly in place. Somebody calls, and somebody else has to run. Hearing it laid out like this completely strips away the myth of some glamorous, high-flying lifestyle and reduces it down to basic operational logistics. That is exactly what makes the humor cut so deep. It's built entirely on the framework of an actual job. And regular jobs leave behind paper trails. We're talking text messages, call logs, cash payouts, and official complaints. The very second the conversation goes from a joke about a streaming movie to talking about people refusing to pick up the phone, you can hear the real boundaries being drawn up. The performance completely turns into a refusal to participate. That is a major turning point in the timeline. While the freezer line has been a running gag this whole time, this is the first time it actually sounds like a door slamming shut. Mark that down. Moments like that show you exactly where the case is going to turn, long after the internet moves on to the next meme.
Through that trial and OJ's trial, I've been properly entertained by both of them, yo. OJ trial, that was the trial of the century, but this one might be a trial of...
And right here, the joke officially hits its final form. The guys start using this grand, over-the-top narrative style that sounds almost legendary. They're talking about climbing to success and stepping out of icy depths, because that is exactly how the internet processes a wild, complicated mess. It turns the drama into a ritual, elevating the story just enough so the audience can feel comfortable laughing at it again. But the grander and more cinematic the language gets, the harder you need to look at what's actually happening on the ground. What is getting covered up by all these icy metaphors? Usually, it's basic cause and effect. Who did what? Who wanted what? And who put up the money? Simple, real-world actions get completely buried under a giant narrative arc of heroes and villains. If you strip all that dramatic poetry away, what you're really left with is a pattern that keeps repeating, a private, low-profile circle colliding directly with the heavy gravity of a global celebrity brand. When those two worlds crash into each other, people get pulled into situations that they later try to justify to themselves. They tell themselves it was just industry networking, it was about pure survival, it was consensual, or it was just a job performance. The panel's over-the-top poetry is a major tell. They know this situation has heavy real-world consequences far beyond the punchlines, so they wrap it up in grand language just to make it easier to talk about.
And you know what's so crazy?
He sung a song?
Hey Siri, what song did the Menendez brothers sing at their parents' funeral?
They sung a song?
Yes, bro.
Whoa, that's crazy.
The Menendez brothers played Milli Vanilli's Girl.
Milli Vanilli? Milli didn't even sing that!
And yet, right in the middle of all the joking, a sudden flash of reality hits the room. Saying that someone acts when everything else fails completely implies that things were stepping up. Escalation means there was planning involved, and planning means there was an actual system in place. If a system existed, that means people had specific roles to play. And if there were roles, there were rules to follow, some stated out loud, but most of them completely unspoken. That is exactly where true accountability hides. right in the space between what the regular players thought the rules were versus what the people in power knew they actually were. The witnesses tell-all book, the podcast riffs, and the public outrage are all circling that exact same point. We are trying to figure out how much of this was an actual personal choice versus how much of it was a calculated routine that people only recognize after the fact, which means our next step has to be incredibly meticulous. We have to keep cross-referencing testimony snippets with public evidence the book covers, the retail listings, and the media appearances. Then we need to freeze frame these exact jokes right next to the receipts. The dramatic talk can stay because it keeps people watching, but the solid proof is what needs to lead the conversation.
He rules. Through the depths of ice. Yeah. Oh, God.
But when standing up could last no more.
And right about here, the laughter gets completely cut short by a specific number that won't stop ringing in everyone's ears. We're not talking about a payout check anymore. We're talking about a serious federal prison sentence, and the exact reasons the room is giving for why that number is so high. That is the exact moment the whole vibe shifts from standard industry gossip into real verdict talk, and the true stakes of this case finally land. There's a distinct reason why the room suddenly sounds less like a casual podcast and more like a crowded courtroom gallery. The second the jokes fade out, the reality of sentencing math walks right into the room on its own. That is the one part of modern scandal culture that absolutely nobody wants to look at: how the internet's favorite viral soundbites get dragged into a physical space where words are heavily weighed under the law, not just tossed around for views. If you listen closely, you can hear the guys trying to process two completely different trials at the same time. The one happening across social media, and the one going down inside a federal building. In the court of public opinion, viral clips are the ultimate currency, and the most shocking edit always wins the day. But in a real trial, documents do all the talking, and the actual context completely refuses to be edited out. That exact tension forms the entire backbone of this episode. The hosts know it, and the viewers can feel it. This is where we find out if we've actually been following a real story, or if we've just been riding a viral wave.
Like, if it's a regular domestic thing or whatever, right? How much would he get for having a spat with her? How much time would that be?
Well, but he's not getting charged with that.
But, but I'm trying to see something.
In a domestic trial, it'd probably be like 2-3 years.
2-3 years?
Yeah.
So why would he get 11?
Because
that specific statement lands so hard because it calls out a very uncomfortable reality. High-profile fame acts as a massive multiplier on public attention, on what people expect from you, and, ultimately, on the penalty you face. But it also forces us to look at our own part in this. If we constantly reward the absolute messiest, most toxic edits with millions of views, we shouldn't act surprised when the exact narrative that juries and judges are taking in every day is completely filled with the exact same internet fumes. The solution isn't to pretend that celebrity status shouldn't play a role in legal outcomes. It's about getting completely honest about how we, the viewers, help create the exact environment where a simple phrase sounds like both a joke and a criminal motive at the same time. Step away from the podcast punchlines for a second and you're faced with a much more grounded question. What exactly was listed in the charges? What was proven in front of the jury? What was argued by the attorneys? And what was negotiated behind the scenes? That is the exact point where the meme dies out and the official record actually takes over.
Dies and the record begins.
you know niggas got fired behind that.
It's an embarrassment.
Exactly, it's embarrassing. Y'all niggas went and tried to the niggas famous as and we brought him down and we still couldn't get a conviction. So guess what? We gonna have to make everybody pay, bro. And that's how I feel. If you want to sit here and say he's up for 11 years,
if we can actually hold that line, meaning we laugh when the guys are being funny, but we strictly check the facts when it matters, then we're not just consuming mindless industry gossip. We're actively pushing back against the content machine that tries to turn real human beings into simple entertainment plots. Otherwise, we're going to keep making the mistake of treating a viral highlight reel as absolute proof and viewing the actual evidence as nothing but a minor inconvenience. This is the exact edge of the topic where most commentary channels completely back away. But we won't. We're going to sit right here in this uncomfortable legal arithmetic. What was officially alleged in the paperwork? What was openly admitted on the stand? And what was handed down by the judge?
there's some poor bodies that came home in 11 years, bro. Like, what's really going on with this situation? Who he really upset? We don't know the powers that be that, you know what I mean, he be rubbing shoulders with. He might have just rubbed the wrong shoulders. Because 11 years is crazy. You're going to come out in 11 years, you're not going to be the same.
If we can actually hold that line, meaning we laugh when the guys are being funny, but we strictly check the facts when it matters, then we're not just consuming mindless industry gossip. We're actively pushing back against the content machine that tries to turn real human beings into simple entertainment plots. Otherwise, we're going to keep making the mistake of treating a viral highlight reel as absolute proof and viewing the actual evidence as nothing but a minor inconvenience. This is the exact edge of the topic where most commentary channels completely back away. But we won't. We're going to sit right here in this uncomfortable legal arithmetic. What was officially alleged in the paperwork? What was openly admitted on the stand? And what was handed down by the judge?
With Irv Gotti and them, with that whole Supreme team, when they went in and indicted them, they made sure that they could help their men and put them niggas under indictment and shit like that, and they had to fight.
And right here is the ultimate receipt that no internet meme can twist. Real, physical years in prison were handed down by a federal judge while the internet was busy laughing over viral catchphrases. We have tracked these jokes all the way to the very edge, and now we are pinning them directly to the official filings, the sworn testimonies, and the strict timelines. If the culture wants to treat this like a low-budget streaming movie, fine, let the credits roll. But we are going to freeze frame the actual facts right underneath the entertainment and let the truth speak at maximum volume. The next time you hear someone drop a viral phrase about this case, ask them to show you the legal file, not the TikTok clip. Because if the only thing they can throw at you is a podcast catchphrase, you just found out exactly where the lie lives.
When you rich like Diddy, you got people that own the media. You know
Niggas
what I
own
mean?
networks.
Yeah, you
like
got people like that. You know, you get in beef with people that got the same amount of paper as you or more.
What matters more than anything else is the exact order of events. What was originally claimed, what was admitted to, what was actually proven in front of a judge, and what sentence was ultimately handed down. And we have to look at how the sheer volume of public attention completely twisted every single step of that process. We just spent the last section proving that viral entertainment can actually carry real weight, as long as you make the actual evidence way heavier than the online applause. That is the entire point of this video. We're not here to crown anyone a saint or turn anyone into a monster. We are here to show you exactly how the media machine operates when nobody is paying attention to the details. A witness claim turns into a major headline. A headline turns into a trending hashtag. A hashtag turns into a general public mood. And suddenly that mood starts pretending to be an absolute fact. If you actually care about what's true, you have to fight that process at every single turn. So here is our agreement with you moving forward. We are not going to hype up the absolute messiest edit just for clicks. We are going to stop and focus on the unexciting details that actually decide people's lives, the legal footnotes, the official court filings, and the slow paperwork. We are going to respect the huge difference between what somebody joked about into a podcast microphone versus what they swore to tell the truth about inside a federal courtroom. And the second a viral meme tries to take the place of an official record, we're going to pull out the paperwork and make the joke sit down. We owe that to the people getting chewed up by the algorithm daily, and we owe it to an audience that is completely exhausted from being manipulated by it. Look, if you were laughing at the clips, that's completely fine. Humor is exactly what keeps people tuned into these conversations. But do not let the jokes sneak the most critical parts of this story out the back door. Follow the money. Keep track of the actual timelines. Close the massive gap between what we share on our feeds and what we can actually prove with documentation. Because at the end of the day, hip-hop culture and the internet are going to run with whatever behavior we decide to reward. If we keep rewarding rapid-fire rumors and spicy titles, that is exactly what we're going to get. But if we start rewarding solid context, we're going to get the real story. Make that choice intentionally. And for the people already running to the comments section to type out that everyone is overthinking this and it's just pure entertainment, let's be real for a second. A multi-year federal prison sentence is not entertainment. Sworn court testimonies are not entertainment. And the heavy legal fallout that lands on everyday people with way less power than the people making the punchlines is definitely not entertainment. You can laugh all you want, but you cannot lie about the records. Not on this channel. So keep using the viral catchphrases if you really want to. Wear them completely out. But every single time it comes up in conversation, make sure you answer it with hard dates, with official legal documents, and with direct quotes from the stand. Answer it with the exact pieces of the puzzle that cannot be clipped away by an editor. Because if we don't start doing that, we're not just observing the drama, we're actively keeping it alive. And a narrative like this, once it gets rolling, never stops growing. We are going to be right back here with even more receipts. Until then, turn the volume down on all the internet outrage. Turn the captions on for the actual evidence. And always remember, The absolute loudest version of a story is almost never the one telling the truth. The truth never needs to shout at you. It just needs to outlast the noise.